Welcome back to the Communication Mastery Podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. As you know, this is where we unleash the power of understanding to build bridges and not boxes. And for these next few episodes, I want to speak specifically to those in the C-suite, the executives who have companies to run and you have communication questions. So we're going to take several sessions here and speak to company executives about communication to answer some of the questions that I hear regularly when I'm looking at that kind of a client, that kind of a setting. And so we want to look first of all at strategic communication and leadership, because that's such a vital area for us to understand communication. And I've got a lot of material here for you. So let's jump right in. First question that I hear often is, how can I communicate my vision effectively to ensure company-wide alignment? Because it's so easy, isn't it, for vision to get diluted towards the edges or to get lost in the middle or to be distracted from it by the needs of the moment. And so in order to ensure company-wide alignment, we want to focus on clarity and then on consistency and then on engagement. You've got to have engagement in order for the clarity and the consistency to really take root across the company. So what you're going to do first of all is to simplify and clarify the vision. You've got to make it concise. If there's a compelling vision, it should be clear, it should be memorable and inspiring as well. And as we go through here, I'm going to make some comments about the communication languages, but also to other episodes of this Communication Mastery podcast that you could refer back to. So in the whole area of a compelling vision, I'd recommend episode 4 on clarity of communication. That's an important factor as we get the vision clear. Another thing you can do to clarify and to simplify the vision is to utilize storytelling, because stories are really powerful. You know, facts inform us, but stories inspire us. And so you can share why this vision matters to you personally, as well as to the company. That creates that personal connection that can make the vision land in the heart of an employee. Episode 8 is all about the power of story, if you need more help in that area. And then tie the story and the clarity to the purpose. You need to help your employees see how the vision connects to the work that they're doing and to the company's broader mission. So tie everything in to the purpose there as well. And then the second part of communicating the vision effectively would be to communicate consistently and repeatedly. If you have been the one who's led the development of the vision or the implementation of the vision, it can feel very redundant to keep repeating yourself, but your company needs you to be consistent and to repeat, particularly with a multi-channel approach. You don't want to be just saying the same thing in the same way all the time, but use all hands meetings, use emails, use internal videos, something that's only circulated to the employees, or maybe you have a town hall meeting, or maybe there's one-on-one conversations that you can utilize so that you communicate the vision from every angle, but doing it consistently and repeatedly will really make it stick. You're embedding the vision in the company culture. And that should be reflected in your hiring, in your training, in performance evaluations, in professional development. The Shaper language, the Shaper communication language is really the best at vision consistency, seeing the goal and figuring out the steps to get to that goal. And episode 7 of our podcast is all about consistency. Recommend you go back to that one as well. Third area that helps you align the vision and communicate it effectively is to align the leaders first. Because once your executives have bought in, then the rest of the company can follow. But if the leadership team isn't aligned, then the employees won't be either. And so you want to ensure they can understand and articulate the vision. And don't lose sight of the crucial part of this equation, which is the middle management structure. Middle managers are crucial to cascade the vision down through the ranks of the company, through your team. And so invest in them by recognizing that we don't all receive communication in the same way. How well do you understand the preferred communication styles of your middle managers? It's worth investing in figuring out how they need to hear from you, what they need to hear. Because if you don't figure out how they're going to hear it, they may not hear it at all, and then your vision gets diluted as it goes through the company. But invest in them in the same way. Help them to build their adaptability, because the teams that they manage or the people that they have reporting to them, they will be individuals as well who will need to receive the vision and understand the vision in specifically different ways according to the employee. So help them learn to connect to the preferred style of those that they're leading. One more thing you can do is to make it interactive. Encourage dialogue with your staff, with your employees. They can ask questions, they can offer feedback, and they need to be able to see their role in executing the vision. So make it interactive, create a feedback culture. That was episode 9 in this current series. And then you can use visual reinforcement as well, whether it's posters around the workplace or these days dashboards on the company intranet. And make sure your key performance indicators are really reflecting the progress you're making towards the vision. And then finally, on this question, link the vision to action. So set clear goals, break it down into measurable objectives and milestones. Utilize the doer language to make sure that we reach those milestones, but the shaper language is great at forming those milestones and working out the steps to reach the goal. Celebrate the progress. Don't just wait till the end, but celebrate progress along the way. Because as you recognize the teams or the individuals that are contributing to the vision's success, that spreads their vision throughout the company. The producer language, the influencer language, and the responder language are all great at helping you to figure out the best way to recognize and celebrate the progress that you're making. So that was question 1. Now, the second question I hear a lot is, how do I tailor my communication to the different stakeholders that I have to interact with? Because in the C-suite, you're interacting with employees and investors, as well as your customer base. So you've got to be able to adapt your communication to those different audiences. So you need to focus on the needs of each audience so that the tone of your message is suitable for the audience that's hearing it, and there's an appropriate delivery channel for what it is you're communicating. So with employees, you want to inspire them, but also align them with your vision and engage them in the company's mission. You want to foster trust. You want to increase motivation by believing in the employees you have and encouraging them. There needs to be clarity around the company's direction. And so your tone as the CEO or an executive of the company, it needs to be transparent and it needs to be relatable and it needs to be motivational. It's so easy when you are in your corner office to lose touch with what the folks in the rest of the building or the rest of the company, how they operate, how they think, having the connection of being relatable, as well as being transparent about why you see this vision as so crucial and where we're going together, what it means to you. Utilize the power of story again there. But the key message has to be, here's where we're going, here's why it matters, and here's why you are so important to where we're going. You can encourage two-way communication in this area as well, asking for feedback, and then also recognizing any time that somebody makes a contribution that moves you forward along the path that you're moving along. Make sure that you're consistent with your employees. Don't say one thing in public, maybe in your PR or in your marketing, and then another thing inside the company internally with your employees. If there's a dissonance between those two messages, then the employees won't know where they stand. You need to be consistent. That's only one part of your communication as an executive, though. You also need to communicate with your investors, the stakeholders in the success of your company. And here you need to convey confidence, but also focus on performance and vision. You want to be demonstrating financial health, of course, presuming that it's there. You need to have a growth strategy that you can communicate clearly. And you need to show the long-term value of those investors' investment in your company. So you need to be data-driven, you need to be confident, and you need to be strategic in the way that you communicate with this audience. The key message for this audience would be something along the lines of how you're creating sustainable value and you're managing the risks effectively. They need to see both sides of the equation. It doesn't need to be just a rah-rah success story. You need to also talk about what you're doing about the challenges you see, the weaknesses that you've identified, the threats that may be out there in an uncertain world. So that can be done through investor reports. It can be done through shareholder meetings and press releases, and sometimes earnings calls are a good place to do that as well. But remember to focus on financial performance and the return on investment with your investors. The risk mitigation, market position, all of those things play into the investors feeling secure with you as the executives of the company that they've invested in. It's important to anticipate tough questions so that you're not on the back foot as you respond, and you need to have data-driven answers to any tough questions that you may receive. But you need to also be forward-looking. There's always the need to keep the vision central, not just focusing on past performance. And then the third audience that you have to engage as an executive is your customers. You need to focus on value. You need to focus on the trust that they have in your company and the product or the service that you're offering. And then you want to also focus on customer experience. That's a big deal in today's society. Customers who feel like they've had a good experience will tolerate any potential mistakes or missteps in your relationship. But if they don't have a good experience, then they're likely to go elsewhere to the competition. So you want to build brand loyalty. And you also want to solve any problems while you show value in what you're offering and selling to them. So you want to be saying this kind of key message: we understand your needs and we're delivering the best solution for you because we understand those needs. And the way you do that will be through your website, through your social media. It may be through newsletters. Email newsletters are a very good way of doing that if they're phrased well and designed effectively. But also your customer support mechanisms are very important to reinforce the messaging. If, again, there's a dissonance between your customer support and your PR, then you're going to find a problem. You need to be sure that both of those are aligned in order for this to work. So that's how we tailor our communication. Here's a third question I hear quite regularly. Because in the corporate world, there's often difficult news to communicate. And so often executives will ask me, what's the best way for me to deliver difficult news or hard news without doing undue damage to morale or trust of the employees or the customers? And here, it's very important to focus on empathy. Empathy doesn't always come easily to those in the executive realm, but it's something we can grow and develop in order to be able to make use of it in those difficult situations. You also need to foster transparency. If there's any degree of obfuscation, then people won't trust what you're saying. And then there needs to be clear action communicated whenever there's a difficult message to put across. So there's a part to this that involves preparation. You need to have clarity of what you need to communicate, why it's hard. Deliver the truth, don't sugarcoat it, but also don't cause unnecessary panic. Just simply present the why of what it is you have to do or to say. Be direct, but be human with it. Your employees will appreciate you being honest rather than maybe vague statements that cause more uncertainty, more confusion. And then prepare in advance to answer the likely questions that will arise from what you're communicating, because those concerns have to be addressed with clarity, but also with precision. And make sure that your whole team, leadership team that is, are on board with what we're going to say, how we're going to say it, and what are the solutions we're offering, because they need to be on that same page in order for people to trust that the company knows where it's going. When you've prepared, then you want to deliver with as much empathy as you can muster. You want to understand or demonstrate that you understand the impact of what you're communicating, but also the impact on your employees. You want to show that you care about them. So you can acknowledge emotion as you convey a difficult message. You can say, it's okay to say, I know this is tough. It's okay to give reasons for why it's tough, because people can handle bad news better when they understand the why. And then you need to also own responsibility. Don't blame external factors entirely, because if there were mistakes made, it's good to acknowledge them. The mistakes that were made may only be 10% of the problem, but employees especially, but also customers, recognize when executives own their own responsibility as part of the problem so that they can trust them to be part of the solution. And then the third thing to do is to provide a path forward, to have clear steps that we're going to take together in order to address whatever the difficult situation is. You know, if there are layoffs involved, and you need to offer generous severance and career support. If it's budget cuts, then we need to be very clear about what are our priorities, which are our clearest priorities that we're sustaining, and what's going to remain unchanged after the changes that we're making. And then if our strategy is changing, we need to explain why we're adapting, but also how we're going to adapt and what that's going to mean for the employees who have to handle that transition. And then end always with reassurance. So even in tough times, employees need to know that you've got a plan and that you're leading clearly and firmly. And then after the event, follow up and keep communication open. Because if you check in with your teams regularly, if your whole company gets updates regularly, even if it's simply to say, this is what we said we'd do and we're still working on it, that will help your employees to stay engaged, and it will also help your customers to retain trust. So here's the key thing with difficult news. Difficult news doesn't break trust. It's poor communication that breaks trust. So be clear and be human and show the way forward. One more question for this session, and that is, how do I ensure that my executive team is aligned and speaking with one voice? Obviously, this is especially true in the previous question we answered when there's difficult situations to navigate, but it's important for your executive team to all speak with a clear and aligned voice, even in non-difficult times. So you need to focus on collaboration, but also on consistency of message and clarity of communication. So you need to make sure you've established a shared vision and a shared strategy so that every one of your executive team understands and believes in the direction that you're going. So you need to have those regular strategy sessions, and it's helpful if you just develop maybe a one-page strategy summary, a strategic narrative, if you like, that describes where you're going, and all of your leaders can reference that. And you can check on that alignment by asking them, how would you explain our strategy in one sentence, and see what answers you get, because that will quickly give you a reading on whether all of your team are aligned together and sharing that vision. You also need to set clear communication standards so that whenever the leaders are communicating, whether it's internally or externally, they need to have an agreement on the key messages that we're sharing, whether it's in investor meetings or it's in media interviews to the outside world. And you can use briefings before major announcements to make sure you're all aligned on the wording you want to use and the terminology. Try to avoid any jargon in those kinds of messagings and avoid mixed signals as much as you can. They should reinforce each other's messaging, not contradict it. It's important to foster open and honest dialogue, whether it's in private as you reach the vision and the strategy, or whether it's in the public setting. You want to be as open as you can, but you also want to make sure there isn't that contradiction that we talked about before. So it's important for executives to have a safe place to challenge and disagree before you go public, and then you need to have a disagree and commit approach where once we've aired our disagreements and we've reached a decision, then everybody's agreed to support it fully and wholeheartedly. And then you need to measure and maintain your alignment as you go forward. So you keep the team accountable for that consistent messaging aligned with your vision and your strategy. So private debate, public unity is the watchword for this question. And the CEO's got to be the glue that keeps all of the executives aligned and ensuring that they're speaking with one voice, fostering that culture of transparency and collaboration. So those are a number of strategic communication and leadership questions. In our next episode, we'll look at another area of executive communication. But for now, if any of this has been helpful to you and somebody came to mind that you'd like to share it with, just pull out your phone and text them a link to this episode. Invite them to listen and discuss with you so you can both learn together. I'm committed to helping you gain communication mastery, whether it's at the level of a multinational company or whether it's at the level of your relationships in your workplace team or even at the level of around the dinner table with your family. So let me know how I can help you. Give me feedback through my website at markburlinson.com, and I'd be glad to answer questions in a future episode. Until next week, take care and build that communication mastery.